The company we're focusing on today is Trump Media and Technology Group, or DJT, on the stock market. They're the ones behind Truth Social. And, well, it's a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah, you could say that. It's really fascinating, the valuation versus their actual performance. It's not something you see very often, especially in social media.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty wild. We're talking a company valued at almost $9 billion. But last quarter, the revenue was barely $1 million.
It's a huge disconnect, right? For comparison, Snap's valuation is about half of DJT's, but they're making around $6 billion every year. And then you have Reddit at $30 billion. They're estimated to be pulling in $1.7 billion. So yeah, DJT is a real outlier here.
Definitely. And to make things even more confusing, there's absolutely zero Wall Street analyst coverage on DJT. It's like this financial black box.
Yeah, exactly. Without that kind of analysis, investors are basically on their own when it comes to figuring out what the company's really worth. It's worth noting, though, that DJT is trying to branch out and get more revenue streams. They're putting money into Truth, plus their streaming platform, and they're working on their own content delivery network. And there's even talk about them maybe buying some companies in the fintech space.
So given all that, is DJT even a realistic target for someone to buy? And if so, who would even want to?
Those are the big questions. You'd think maybe the big players like Meta Platforms or Alphabet might be interested. They definitely have the cash. But DJT's tiny revenue could be a problem.
And wouldn't a big tech acquisition be kind of hypocritical? I mean, Trump's whole thing has been about going against these big companies, remember? Before we go any further, though, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful deep dives just like this one. We'll keep you updated on all the important stories. Now back to DJT. Another name that comes to mind is Elon Musk. He's got X, which used to be Twitter, and he's definitely not afraid to make big moves.
True, but then again, Trump's back on X now. So what would Musk really get out of buying DJT? It's an interesting question for sure. It really shows how complicated all this is. And there's another angle to think about, too, DJT's interest in cryptocurrency. There are all these rumors about them possibly buying Backtid, that crypto trading platform.
Wow, that would definitely add a whole new layer to this story. So let's shift gears for a minute and talk about Trump's own stake in the company and the ethical stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. Trump owns a ton of shares in DJT, 114.75 million to be exact, which is worth something like $4.6 billion. And all those shares are held in a revocable trust run by his son, Don Jr.
And to add to that, Trump said publicly that he's not selling, which makes you think, what would happen to the share price and his net worth if he did sell a large chunk?
Absolutely. And then there's the big issue everyone's thinking about, the ethics of a sitting president having such a big stake in a private company.
Right. The Office of Government Ethics Guidelines basically say presidents should follow conflict of interest laws. Even though it's not legally required, it makes the whole thing really murky.
For sure. It's pretty much impossible to know for sure if Trump's talking to his family or people he works with about DJT. And that raises concerns about conflicts of interest that could directly affect his decisions as president. And then there's the possibility of foreign influence.
It's not crazy to think that people from other countries could buy DJT shares just to get on the president's good side.
Right. And the lack of transparency doesn't help. Like Jordan Leibowitz from that watchdog group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, said, the trust is a gesture toward cleaning things up. But the concerns are that Trump still owns the shares and everybody else knows he owns it.
So who else is involved here? Who are these other people holding DJT stock?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Most of the stock seems to be held by regular, everyday investors. There's not much institutional investment, and most of that is through index funds.
So we're basically talking about a company that's mostly owned by individual investors, not big institutions.
It's definitely a unique situation. We might get a better idea of who owns what in February when mutual fund companies and hedge funds have to report what they're holding.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
It will.
Makes you wonder why those everyday investors are buying in.
Yeah.
Are they seeing something those big institutions aren't, or are they just caught up in that meme stock craze?
That's a really good point. DJT's trading patterns do kind of look like meme stocks, like GameStop or AMC Entertainment. We're seeing lots of momentum trading driven by those retail investors.
So it's like they're not looking at DJT as a regular company, but more as like a symbol, a movement, maybe a way to kind of fight the system.
Maybe. And that's where the lack of analyst coverage really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Without that kind of grounded, data-based analysis, it's easier for emotions and speculation to take over.
Yeah, I mean, even experienced market analysts are comparing DJT to meme stocks. Steve Sosnick, the chief strategist at Interactive Brokers, straight up called DJT a meme stock. He said, all it needs is a modest excuse and some devotees on social media.
And Brett Kenwell, a U.S. investment analyst at 8Toro, he said DJT is a really popular pick for their clients, right up there with GameStop and AMC Entertainment. He pointed out that the volume quickly picks up and then falls off, and that investors opportunistically try to take advantage of momentum.
So it seems like we're dealing with a stock that's driven more by feelings than actual financials.
Definitely a key point here, and it makes figuring out what's going to happen with DJT even tougher.
So where do we go from here? What's next for this company?
Well, the next big thing will probably be in February, when Trump media is supposed to release their results for the fourth quarter and the whole year.
That'll give us a much better idea of how they're doing financially. But until then, I'm guessing DJT's stock price is going to be all over the place, going up and down based on any news about the president.
Yeah, exactly. It's a company full of uncertainty, and its future seems completely tied to Trump. And well, Trump is unpredictable.
Speaking of unpredictable, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want more deep dives into the world of finance, we'll keep you ahead of the game on the stories that matter. Now, with Trump back in the White House, what's that going to mean for DJT? Will they take advantage of this and become a real media powerhouse?
Or will they just kind of fizzle out and become just another part of the crazy story of Donald Trump?
That's a question that's definitely keeping investors and analysts on their toes. This has been a super interesting look at DJT, a company that seems to break all the rules.
It really shows that the market is complicated. There are things affecting it that go way beyond the usual financial stuff.
And DJT is a perfect example of that. It's a company where perception, feelings, and even a bit of speculation can really drive its value.
Yeah, it's a great example of how stories, both the financial ones and the political ones, can come together and impact the market. And it shows just how much power retail investors have these days. They're not just sitting back and following the big institutions. They're actually shaping what happens in the market.
DJT is proof of that. It's a company that's captured the attention of individual investors, and they're betting on it, even without those traditional signs of success.
It's a risky bet, but it could pay off big. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
As we wrap up this look at DJT, one thing is for sure, this story isn't over yet. It's going to keep going, with twists and turns that'll keep everyone guessing.
Yeah, it reminds us that in finance, nothing's guaranteed, and that's what makes it so interesting.
DJT is like a mini version of that uncertainty. It's a company that breaks the mold and challenges how we think about how the market works. It's a story worth following.
And it shows how important it is to stay informed, to dig deeper, and really understand what's driving the market.
So to everyone listening, keep an eye on DJT. This is a company that could skyrocket or completely crash. Only time will tell.
But one thing's certain, it's a company that'll keep us talking.
Absolutely. And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world of finance. I'll see you next time.